infused it with the original idea and decision that I'm working on this. This is something that's going to be constant by me. This is something that's a project. This is something that I'm doing. I don't know how that works exactly, but he says that's a fact. That then it becomes, if you koveya, if you set out that this is something you're going to do and being focused on, then when you do it, it's greater than if it just happened that you ended up doing that mitzvah. So that's number one, a reason why it's beneficial that to take on that we're working on guarding our tongues. Then he says, like we mentioned before, he says number two, that why it's so important to set out that we're going to be careful about guarding our mouth. He says that obviously speech, there's we just read, there's many different aspects, negative and positive commandments that we could transgress with our speech, right? And speaking is one of the things that we do very, very often, right? We're constantly speaking. So he says, other averos, maybe they come up once in a while, they come up once a week, they come up once a month, once a year. Most other things, they're not as common, right? So he says, if you don't make up that you're going to guard your tongue, if you don't make it that we're working on this idea of guarding our mouth, then we're most likely a week's for sure not going to go by where we don't fall, probably not even a day. Other averos, other things, how often do they come up already? Shabbos only comes up on Shabbos. Other things, they don't come up that often. But speech is something which is constant. So if we don't make a decision that we're going to be working on our speech, so we're for sure going to fail very, very soon. So it's something which we have to, more than other things, make a decision that we're going to be careful about, because otherwise, there's, within an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, a day, a week, we're for sure going to have problems in this area. And that's why he says, we say, we read this maybe so fast, we don't even focus on it. At the end of the Shemona Esrei every day, the Sfardim have it also, right? We say, Elokai nitzor lishoni meira. What? We say a prayer that Hashem, my God, please guard my tongue from speaking evil, from speaking things that we shouldn't speak about, right? And so we say that we say it 3 times a day. I say 3 times a day because we need to say it 3 times a day. Between each prayer, how much are we speaking that we could falter in this area? So after every prayer, we ask Hashem to guard our tongue. He says furthermore that even if, again, he's trying to focus on why we have to make up a decision that we're going to work on guarding our tongue. He says, because otherwise, besides the fact that we're going to, fail probably very soon because this challenge comes up all the time, but if it's not on our mind, and especially since it's so common, then when we do say the wrong thing, we don't hardly think twice about it, right? Okay, we go further. We don't Lashon Hara, this, that, I said a lie, and we'll just go further in our lives, and we go further. If it's something, though, that we're working on, so then even if we do fail, and we're going to fail, even if we try, we're not going to, it's a very difficult thing to do, but at least if we set out with a project that this is something that we're being careful about, so then it's going to be on our conscience when we do say the wrong thing. It's only if we have a focus and awareness of it, so then even when we do maybe slip up, but at least then it registers that I made a mistake. Otherwise, it doesn't even register by us, especially since it's so common and we're always speaking and we're always saying the wrong thing. But at least if we put in some effort, where we're making a conscious effort, this is something we're working on, so hopefully we'll be more successful in the first place. And then even if we're not successful, at least we'll be aware that we made a mistake and that we weren't successful. Another thing, he says, and there's all different types of social settings where people sit around and people talk, with family, with friends, maybe in shul when we're not supposed to, maybe at meetings, maybe at the restaurant, maybe in the place of work. People sit around and people talk. And obviously a very common thing is that people are going to be talking things that they shouldn't be talking about, right? Now, a lot of times it's a big pressure because people you don't want to look like that, loser who, doesn't participate in the conversation, and you want to be accepted amongst everyone else, right? But, so again, if you have this conscious effort though, that you're working on guarding your mouth, then you'll be able to much more easily stand up to that challenge, or not put yourself into those situations, and not, you'll if this becomes something where we're working on guarding our mouth, then you might even avoid those situations, and that might even lead to, doing other mitzvahs, because instead of, once a week I go hang out with these people, but I realize that, this is leading to every single week to talking just constant Lashon Hara, then I might make that decision. Listen, I'm not going to go there. At least I'll start going there less often, or whatever it is. So you'll be avoiding the situation, and you'll find, okay, if you're not going to be hanging out there, maybe I'll actually have more time to do more positive things as well. And then he says, like he said before, that we mentioned before, he says another reason to be so careful about guarding one's speech is that the power of our positive speech, the positive of our Torah, the positive of our tefillos, the positive of our brachos, is affected if we use our mouth for negative at other times. If we're speaking Lashon Hara at other times, if we're speaking words that we're not allowed to say, if we're lying at other times, if we're speaking words of anger, whatever the negative speech is, however this works in the world of impurity, in the world of Kabbalistic ideas, but he says that impurity that we speak with our mouth, at other times, it attaches itself. That means our mouth becomes impure, and even when we try to speak holy things, and even when we try to learn Torah, when we say brachos, that impurity connects itself to the Torah, to the brachos, and all the Torah we're learning is diminished. All the prayers we're saying are diminished. Because it's being attacked by the impurity which we create when we use our mouth for that which is negative. A couple more things we'll mention. He says, and the Chavetz Chaim maybe already brought this to the forefront, is that there's many mitzvahs in the Torah, right? There's many things, but there's an idea that sort of maybe for the honor of Hashem, is that when there are things that are being overlooked, that people are not careful about, right? So they call it a mace mitzvah. A mace mitzvah is that there's someone who Chas v'Shalom passed away, and there's no one to bury them. So you got to take care of it. Everyone's responsible. Even the Kohen Gadol has to take care of this mace mitzvah. So there's something called a mace mitzvah. Also, if there's literally a mitzvah that's a mace, there's mitzvahs in the Torah that people just forget about and trample upon. So then it's a mitzvah to take care of that mace mitzvah, for the honor of Hashem, that there shouldn't be parts of the Torah that people don't care about. So something like speech, which became and has become, and we said, thanks to the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, maybe there's more of a focus on it today. But in the world at large, speech is something which people trample upon. People are not careful about. Lashon Hara is tremendously common, right? So when there's something, he says, another reason for a person to focus on guarding their mouth is because you're bringing tremendous honor to Hashem, because here you're taking a mitzvah which people are not careful about, and you're bringing it to the forefront, which is really what the Chavetz Chaim really did to a tremendous degree. Again, like he said before, if this is something that we're focused on, in general, if we're focused on making a conscious effort, we're working on guarding our mouths, then we're going to be much more careful about all these areas, what exactly we say and what exactly we don't. And even when we need to speak, we'll measure our words, so to say. He brings the example, that when they used to have telegrams, right? Telegrams, you have to probably pay per letter, per word. So when a person sent a telegram, they were very careful exactly what they wrote. Now sometimes with text messages they limited you, but now you can just send more text messages. But they even though they had to say something, they had to send an important telegram, but they were careful and they measured their words. So if we're focused on our speech, then also we'll always be measuring our words. Yes, I have to say something. This situation, I do have to say something. But how much am I going to say? Even when you have to say something for constructive purposes, even when sometimes Lashon Hara might be permitted, in a sense, because you have to make sure not to cause another person harm. But even in that situation, if we're conscious about it, we'll measure our words. I'm only going to say that which is necessary, and we'll be measuring our words constantly. And the truth is, the fact today, he brings another thing that, there's one thing when one person works on it. If you could work on it with other people, there's a community that works on it, the shul works on it. Now they, with this Covenant and Heritage Foundation, when the Jewish people on a larger degree are working on it, then it's a tremendous thing altogether. So he talks about other things, but you see the fact that our tongue, our mouth, has tremendous power, both for positive and chas v'shalom for negative, for many different reasons as we discussed. But speech is the essence of man, and we have the power to use it to create tremendous things and use it for Torah and Tefillah and good things. But chas v'shalom, we could use it to ruin ourselves. People ruin themselves through their mouth also. You don't use your mouth wisely. You dig a hole for yourself as well. But surely you don't have a right to do it to anyone else. And the ramifications and the power of our words could destroy lives, no question. And as we see from the Chavetz Chaim, there's many other areas of guarding our mouth, not just Lashon Hara, other forbidden speech that we can't say. And therefore, what he's saying is, we have a sort of an obligation, more than in other areas maybe, that we have to decide this is something that we're going to consciously make an effort to work on. Whether it means, learning Sefer Chavetz Chaim, having some type of session in one of these Svarim. The Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation has all different types of things, all different books that they put out with daily lessons, where you could, learn one daily lesson. Just learning one daily lesson already makes it that it's something which is focused on your mind, which is a focus, and then you have all these things that the Chavetz Chaim says. Once you're focused on it, then all these things are going to be much more easy and have much more meaning and much more power. There's one interesting thing, I don't have it here, but they have a beautiful card. They sent it, put on the table, that you could put on your Shabbos table, that a special prayer that the Chavetz Chaim wrote. Like he said before, there's times when you're sitting around with people, with even your family, and those times when you're sitting around, and the Shabbos table is supposed to be used for sitting around and talking, but you want to make sure that it's used for talking things constructive, things that are permitted, things that are mitzvos, and not being used to talk about all the Lashon Hara of the week and about this person, that person, and all the negative things. And so they have a nice card that you can put on your table. That's a reminder. We need reminders. We need reminders. Otherwise, we forget. And as we said yesterday, we also need to get an idea and paint pictures in our mind of how terrible the sin of Lashon Hara is, how it's compared to murder, how it's compared to idol worship, building a picture in our mind of how it could ruin people's lives, how much we could be hurting people. And Rabbi Yerucham, he gave a tremendous, tzir. Imagine if the person would be in front of you, you could be speaking Lashon Hara that has the potential to change this person's image, to ruin his life, to decimate him, and it's like murder. It's like you're killing him. And if this guy would be here, he would be begging you, please don't say that, Rabbi, please don't say that. He'd be crying and begging you. So if you picture in your mind, it's like standing there with a gun to his head, and the guy's on his knees, and he's begging you, and you're cruel, and you shoot the guy in the head anyway. That's really what it is. We have to paint pictures in our mind of how terrible Lashon Hara is, how powerful our tongue is, how valuable our speech is, and the more we could paint these pictures in our mind, that gives us, we have to make things real, make it realistic. We said that's one of the things we mentioned yesterday. That the person who he came selling, he said, "Who wants to buy the magic potion of life?" And when the rabbi came to him, he said, "Oh, what's the magic potion? Guard your tongue." As the Isha Chavetz Chaim, who wants life? Guard your tongue. And the rabbi was so enthralled. Wow, What did he teach him already? He knew the pasuk in Psalms, he knew the pasuk in Tehillim, but one of the ways of explaining it is, what he was enthralled was how this person brought it to life to make it realistic, to treat it as if it's the potion of life. If we can make it that real, then it will have a lot more meaning to us to try to actually work on it.